What, if anything, of your PC, UWC experience, right from the earlier stage of learning that UWC existed somehow by someone, on to the application and selection process, to your time on campus, to your time as an alum, has had a noticeable impact on your life decisions? And if so, how, and on which of these decisions?
Thank you. It's really a pleasure to speak to Pearson College students and also faculty as well. I'll go a little bit about why and where I heard about UWCs. I'm the second batch of students who went to Pearson UWCs from the Maldives, and so Pearson has a very special place in my heart. And the first time I heard about Pearson was I went to collect my O-level results from my high school, and I saw a poster that said that, are you prepared to stay 2 years away from home? And I think that was the only thing that really was, yes, that's it, you know. And to be honest, I didn't really understand what the UWC movement was at the time. But I didn't even tell my parents that I was applying for this. I just submitted this application and went in, and then I got a call for interviews, and then here I was. I was very ready to spend 2 years away from home, which I didn't think at the time would really be the most transformative years of my entire life. And I'm not saying this in a light way. My Pearson experience really opened my eyes to the entire world, which has transformed till today my entire worldview. I was someone who's never left home before. It was my first time to step on a flight, and it took, I think, about 30 hours to reach Canada. And by the time, I had also lost my letter from Pearson that said that I was a student, and the Canadian authorities at the immigration, they didn't allow me to come out because they possibly thought that I was some kind of a victim of child trafficking or something like that. But anyways, it really is, continues to be the experience that has transformed my life in the most meaningful way. It has taught me how important tolerance is, and how important accepting of differences we all have is. And this is a learning for a lifetime. And for me to be in politics, this is a very important lesson, I think. And friendships, to maintain friendships who are completely different from me, who grew up in very different environments. One of my Pearson experiences was so what happened was it took me 30 hours to get to Vancouver. I was very jet lagged. And the next day I had to go do my English and math skill levels, right? So I went there and I was really tired, and I don't remember what I did. So I went into this room the next day for classes, and Coops was that. Is she still?
Coops still lives in Victoria, and she does participate in some of our activities, and she comes.
Okay. So I went to this class where no one spoke a word in English. And here it's almost my first language, right? And someone from my class, she arrived a little late, and she was living right next to my room in McLaughlin House. So I said, hi, I'm Shauna, and I extended my hand to like shake hands with her, and then she gave me her luggage. So that was to me unheard of, for someone to not understand English, right? And for someone to and then also, I mean, I had so many of those experiences which really opened up my um, worldview. Again, like it really is the most transformative years of my life.
And speaking of life lessons and transformation, can you remember specifically some words or concepts or some philosophical occurrence that really struck you and has stayed with you since then? And perhaps you still tell that story to friends and family today or
Mhm.
colleagues.
A lot of my work is sometimes very challenging, especially we are a middle income country, and we have had many political challenges. And it's like, in spite of all odds, we have been able to be here today. So after graduation, when I came home, it was the first democratic elections in the Maldives. And I think um, it may not necessarily be, um, you may not understand how important it is, because most of you may have had democracies and voting is so normal and all these things. But for me, that was such an important thing, to be able to vote in a democratic election. It was the most important thing in my life at the time. And then I was a journalist at the time, immediately after I came back. And then the President Nasheed, former President Nasheed, invited me to join his administration, and I agreed to, because I felt like it was really important time to be able to serve my country as well. And we had many challenges. We were emerging from a dictatorship. We didn't have institutions. We didn't have laws. And um, there's so much in the past that has happened we need to deal with. Institutional torture, corruption, all these kind of things, which our institutions were not really formed to be, or had the capacity to address these things immediately after a change in government. So what I want to say is that, so what happened was, our first democratic government was very short-lived. um, uh, 2008 we had elections, 2012 we had a coup, and our government was overthrown, and it was a violent takeover of government. And then from 2012 until 2018, again we were out in the streets and really campaigning for peaceful and free and fair elections. And we were voicing against torture, and we were voicing against corruption and all these things. But what I want to say is, what I think something that Pearson has really taught me is how powerful believing is, and how powerful the idea of how important it is to be optimistic. And I think that that's something that Pearson instilled in me, because I have friends who are in many different parts of the world, whose lives were completely changed after they came to Pearson as well, and they have many stories. And so to understand that this is not the only challenge, and to understand that this is not the only hardship that we may be able to have, and continuing to strive for what we want to, and in terms of how we want to consolidate democracy in the Maldives. I think that's a very powerful lesson that I've really maintained with me, kept very close to my heart, not to lose direction, not to lose optimism, and to really believe that there's some goodness in the world.
Thank you. Um, One of the questions I have to ask is, had you not been to Pearson College, what do you think your life might have become? And be and as a corollary question, since you did go to Pearson, um, which choices have you been making, both personally and professionally, which have something to do with the experience on campus, or the friends that you've made, or the advice that you've been getting since from faculty, from students, from whatever aspect of what your Pearson experience gave you? How has that translated professionally?
Um, well, it makes me really sad to have this conversation when Peter Gardner is not here. He was a very special teacher for me, and he was my student advisor as well. And in fact, he's one reason why I had applied to university and went on to um, the US, and I think one reason why I am here as well. So just to give you a little background, only 6% of Maldivians have the opportunity to study abroad for higher education. And I am one of the really very privileged people from my class to have had that opportunity. And I think I am here. I am where I am today because of the scholarships that I received for UWC and also the Davis Scholars Program as well. And so that's I won't be here if I had not had the opportunity to leave at such a young age and to be exposed to all these questions and idealism and difficult life skills that we all have learned while in Pearson. I still remember we used to have what did we used to call them? Village meetings.
Yes.
Yeah, and those were fun in a sense, like a lot of agreeing to disagree and things like that. So I think, in short, I won't be here today if I had not had the opportunity to leave at 16.
I'm very happy that you did speak of Peter Gardner, as he was a friend of mine and my wife. He returned to teach recently, just before his passing, for 2 years at Pearson. And he was also leading in song the group that met in prayer in the Christian faith group.
Mm-hmm.
And we had very, very special spiritual times with him and his wife. And we've received many, many testimonials, such as yours, of how Peter influenced people's life. So I'm happy to hear that. Now, if others were to describe you as you are today, do you believe that some of them would understand or mention what of your UWC experience you may have told them about, or the stories you may have told, and what would strike them about you that makes you somewhat different, that is part of the UWC ethos, the UWC values? What would you say is that character which characterizes you?
Mm-hmm. I thought about this. I'm really bad at figuring out what others might think of me, in some sense. But I think something that really taught me, again, stayed with me throughout my life, is being able to work with people of different opinions, and with different backgrounds, and that is really key to working in a country like the Maldives, which has had a very, very difficult political past, which is still struggling to strengthen our institutions. And we are still struggling to consolidate our democracy as well. We are a very young democracy. And for me, that is an important skill that I continue to want to polish, but and sometimes I meet UWC graduates in conferences and meetings, or even people who have friends who went to UWCs, and in conversation, we talk about our education and things, and they found out that I went to UWC as well, and they said, "Oh, I'm not surprised. You're one of them." So I always take that as a compliment, because some people do see that, oh yeah, you did go to one of those.
You had an opportunity to promote UWC as an option for some of the youth in your country, and have you inspired some to apply? Is this something that's happened?
Yes, well, I've been very involved with UWC National Committee here, because I was the second batch of students who went to UWC. It was so important for me to come back and to make sure that we continue to send students to UWCs. So what we did was, even when I was in Westminster, we came back in Christmas break to do student selections and to organize, to ensure that we send students every year. And I did that for until about 2012, which then things got really hectic and politically. So I was the lead coordinator for student selections from 2005 until 2012, and which now we have quite a lot of students who come and go, and we completely transformed how we did student selections as well. And we continue to, because it's a very small country, we understand, we know a lot of people, and to make sure that we don't run out of funds as well. So we want to do fundraising. We want to inspire more students to come join. I've done a few talks in schools before, went there and talked to students to encourage them to apply.
Are you aware that we are developing at Pearson now a new diploma that only Pearson students will have an option to take, which will be done concurrently with 3 higher level IB classes, but the other 3 classes will be part of what we call the Climate Action Leadership Diploma, which will become a curriculum that will be the result of collaboration and partnership with Royal Roads University and Vancouver Island University, which is led now by a Pearson graduate from year 10. My first year, Deb Saucier, is the head of the school, and she's now collaborating with us to develop these relationships. So there will be a very, very real focus at Pearson for place-based education to take place and to be embodied through this diploma. So there's obviously, we all hope to be attracting youth who are especially intent on following that track further into university. It won't be all of them. Of course, there's still a lot of diversity, but that will be a program of choice. So we're hoping that that focus and attention and priority given to climate action will result in getting new leaders such as you in their own way becoming agents of change. So I'm very grateful to you for your time this morning, for you, and we'll put this out there as as your statement for the global affairs session. And if it's still okay for you, until the very last minute, you could tell me that you may or may not be available for the Q&A session, but I will confirm with you what number of students wish to be in a session with you. And that way they could have a very intimate conversation with you as a fire chat conversation with someone who was in their position not that long ago and who now is in a position of influence and of action in her own country. And I'm sure that that will be very inspiring for them.
Yeah, I'll that's when did you say that's happening?
It'll well,
21st, right?
well, the 21st is for us. Your
22nd.
your
So next
22nd.
weekend. That's doable, I think. At 8 o'clock, right?
Yes,
Okay.
that's what I'm proposing. Something like today, actually. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Okay.
okay.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I'll be confirming that. I'm very grateful to you. Thank you. We'll show you the result of this, and I look forward to seeing you on campus for your reunion.
Hopefully Canada won't have blacklisted me by then again.
And I hope that the rest of us in the world, especially Canadian consumers who are very, very responsible for consuming energy more than anyone else in the world, will do their part so that
Yeah.
somewhere in the world, the Maldives might get some of the butterfly effect and
Yeah.
improve conditions in your.
My roommate was from what in my second year was from Northwest Territories, and we're still very close. And she came to visit me a few years ago. And one of the problems that we continuously had when we were roommates was, so my roommates were first year roommates were from Italy and Egypt, and then second year roommate was from Canada. Northwest Territories. And one issue we had was the temperature in the room. So all of us were from warm countries, and she was from. So what she always would come and just turn off the heat, and we would go and turn up it maximum. And when she came to visit me here, we were talking about how we're both on both two ends of the world where we can really feel the impacts of climate change, because the melting of the glaciers in the north really, has an impact on us in terms of climate change. So
And
it was,
were these differences in body temperature and tolerance, were those sources of conflict in your bedroom? Would that lead to something of that needed to be problem solved, or
no. I
no?
mean, we would get mad at each other, but then what Carmen at one point did was she just got us a few more blankets and put it on our beds. But we were very, very close. But that was an issue that we had everyday issue that we had to find ways to resolve.
Because the bedroom, as I say all the time, is the first place where we learn the greatest life lessons.
Yeah.
Is there, and then next door it's the laundry room, which causes all kinds of conflict and issues, and then the day room is a place where there are conflict resolution attempts, and then
Yeah.
so really the college beyond the classroom is where things really happen.